What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and I'm sorry if I slur my words just a little bit. I just got back from the dentist's office as of the time that I'm recording this video that you guys are watching right now, and yeah, like this whole side of my mouth is kind of like numb and paralyzed from the finished root canal that I got done, but yo, my tooth feels a lot better now, so everything's good there. But we're not here to talk about my teeth, we're not here to talk about my face being numb. What we're here to talk about is the Game Awards, the good and the bad with what's going on with this show, because this show this year is going to be quite interesting. And as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Jeff Keighley. People think that since I parody him with Black Keighley and I've done some other stuff where I kind of say certain things that I don't like him. No, I actually do like Jeff Keighley. I'll give you guys a story real quick before we get into everything. There was one year at E3, I think it was like E3 2015 or E3 2016, I actually walked right next to Jeff Keighley walking across the street in Los Angeles, and he was talking about how the shows were great or something. And oh, there was another time, I think back in 2012, it was like the GT Film Fest. I saw him there too. So he seems like a cool guy. He's not like a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. And I think that he actually loves video games and everything. So this is not a shot at Keighley. Shout outs to Jeff Keighley. You're trying to do your thing. You're trying to, put games on a pedestal. So I respect that, from one man to another. I do respect that. So shout outs to Jeff Keighley, but there are some issues with his show, which we'll talk about here. So let's go over the good first, because I'm actually really happy about the Game of the Year nominations. I think they did a good job overall. I'm going to go over and just break down the Game of the Year first and foremost. I mean, that's everything that you guys want to hear about anyway, right? Game of the Year outside of the bad stuff that I don't like. So for this year's Game of the Year at the Game Awards, it was Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village. So those were the games, and overall, I don't agree, I guess, with every single one. If it was up to me, I would probably put Monster Hunter Rise in over Resident Evil Village. I think Monster Hunter Rise was the better game overall when it comes down to it. But at the same time, I understand it's Resident Evil. It has that brand power in the West. Also, Resident Evil is a multi-platform game compared to just a single platform with the Switch. So that's obviously going to be harder, as many people probably didn't play Monster Hunter Rise. It still should have got the nod in my opinion, but that's pretty much the only thing that I'd probably just kind of insert in there. Outside of that, I personally liked Returnal a bit more than Ratchet & Clank, but I understand why Ratchet & Clank got the nod and Returnal didn't, considering how many issues Returnal had at launch. So I understand that, but at the same time, I think that overall it was some pretty good picks. But I do want to mention one more good thing with this, and I'll probably do a whole separate video about it, because I think this has ramifications, because people like to talk about the Keighley Awards, and sometimes it is kind of a joke when it comes to some of this stuff here. But at the same time, this is also huge promotion and actually a big opportunity for many of these games to sell millions more in units or in dollar sales or whatever the case is. So there's a lot of money riding on the line for these companies. So to see them get this big recognition, especially for Game of the Year, is actually really good. And there's going to be millions of eyes on this show. So that's also free advertising for your game, So it's something that's actually, there's a lot of analytics and stuff behind it that a lot of the normal gamers don't really look at, which is okay. You're not supposed to look at it from that perspective, but I see it from that perspective, So there's also that, and that's why I think that Metroid Dread, because we talked about the sales and how it's going to be and everything, the fact that Metroid Dread got a Game of the Year nod and there's also a demo on the eShop, that is huge, because people who maybe haven't tuned in or don't know about the game or just learning about, okay, this is a Game of the Year game, and they see that demo on the eShop, and Nintendo sponsors the Game Awards along with Microsoft and Sony as well. But I know that Nintendo and Microsoft definitely are involved in it, and so is Sony too, to a degree as well. So the fact that Nintendo's probably going to be there saying, hey, Metroid Dread, here's an ad for Metroid Dread, which they've done before with certain games at the Game Awards, I think that's obviously a good thing for Metroid Dread to get that nod, and it's going to help push that game when it comes to sales for the holiday period, whether it's through November here with Black Friday and the sales, or also December as well as we lead into Christmas. So I think that is huge for Metroid Dread, and I'm very, very happy to see it get the nod for Game of the Year. So that was good. Also, another good thing about this, in terms of a lot of the categories, like the best narrative and like the best fighting game. There's a lot of stuff in there that was pretty good. I looked over it. It seemed like everything was okay there. So I think that they got a lot of stuff right. Now, there was some things where they didn't get right when it comes to like the music, and some certain things where they probably, I would say, like snubbed the game or 2 or 3 when it comes down to it. But overall, there wasn't anything super egregious that I saw across the board outside of what we're going to talk about in just a bit. But overall, I think the good is that there are a lot of very good games, not just the biggest games getting recognition. There was some indie games in there. Stuff like Psychonauts 2 got into the Game of the Year award, so that's awesome. It Takes Two, that also got into it as well. So the fact that we see stuff like Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread, It Takes Two, not the biggest blockbuster $10 billion marketing budget, that's awesome. I love to see that everyone gets a fair shot, or at least a chance at it. So I think I have to give the board, the panel who voted on what games, I have to give them a bit of credit there for not just picking the biggest, okay, shoot 'em up, bang, bang, you know? So I do think that that's pretty cool when it comes down to it. And overall, when it comes to the other selections, I saw Melty in Fighting Game of the Year, saw Guilty Gear. So that stuff's good. I like that. I think that the family category dominated by Nintendo. There's a lot of stuff there as well, but It Takes Two, I think, is there too. So it might not win. Nintendo might not win that one, but we'll see. But overall, I thought it was okay with a lot of the nominations. So nothing too crazy there, although Black Healy will be coming back to make a skip, but we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the bad, because there is quite a number of bad things. Now, I don't want to be disrespectful to the Content Creator of the Year award, because like I didn't know a lot of these people, and obviously like if you go research, which I did, these are some pretty big names, you know, in respective, like they're pretty big names. But I do feel that Scott the Woz not getting a nod here is a bit of a, I would just say, mistake, because Scott has had an incredible rise to the top when it comes down to it, pretty much doing his own thing. And on top of that, he has like, you know, he has a TV deal that he's doing as well that he announced at Too Many Games. And I think that the creativity that he has, I mean, there's lots of creators that have great creativity. There's lots of guys that I think that could be in there. There's lots of good content creators, lots of good female content creators, a lot of good male content creators, a lot of good everybody content creators that have a shot. But I just feel that Scott, for the past couple of years, definitely should have been on that list, considering who's been on that list and what they do and looking at their content. And I think that if you account for creativity and everything, Scott should have definitely got a nod in there with the rest of them. But hey, there's always next year, maybe once that TV deal pops and everything kind of goes through, I think he might get a bit more recognition. But yes, no disrespect to the people that made it on the list and what they do, because I'm pretty sure that they have a bunch of fans and people that love their work. Heck, I know that. I saw some dude had like millions of followers on Twitter. So like, I do understand that. So that's the first bad when it comes down to it. The next bad that we're going to discuss, oh man, and this one is pretty bad, and that is RPG of the Year. RPG of the Year, this one I did not like whatsoever. And the reason why I didn't like this one whatsoever is because there's a game on here that has no business being on here, in my opinion, and that is Cyberpunk for Best Role-Playing Game. The nominees were Tales of Arise, Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I'm shocked that they put Shin Megami Tensei 5 on this, considering how late it came out, even though reviewers had it in October. But I'm kind of shocked that they put that game on there. But hey, shout outs to them. Once again, got to give credit where credit is due. They did get that right. Also, Scarlet Nexus, once again, very good pick from them. Monster Hunter Rise is on this list, which I guess kind of RPG. I guess you can kind of look at it. I kind of see it more of an action-adventure game with some light RPG elements in there. But hey, it is what it is. Whatever. Another nomination there for a game that I do like. But then Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077. This game was legitimately delisted from the PlayStation Store. It was delisted from the PlayStation Store. It had bugs, glitches, issues across the board. All of these games here are all polished. Every single game that we just talked about here are polished. Yes, some of them, they had some bugs maybe here or there, but nothing was too crazy. Nothing was game breaking. Nothing was crashing and all of that. I've had multiple crashes with Cyberpunk when it launched. The game was a disaster, even on PC. Even though it's the best on PC, it was a disaster on there as well. It was a disaster across the board. How can you put Cyberpunk on this list when legitimately it was delisted from the best-selling platform, home console, in the last gen with the HN when it launched. Because the PS5 and the Xbox Series just came out. Most people didn't play it on there because they didn't have the system. So many people pre-ordered it on PlayStation or were getting it on PlayStation and couldn't even buy it on PlayStation. It was delisted. It barely worked on Xbox One. I mean, the frame rate was so bad. There were horror stories with this game. And the fact that you would put this on here is absolutely atrocious. I just think that that should not happen, considering what happened with this game, considering the lawsuits that's going on with CD Projekt Red, considering everything, the lying that they did, saying that, oh yeah, it plays great on the PlayStation and Xbox. No, it doesn't. It plays great enough to get delisted when it comes down to it, and people having to get refunds. That is not what should be on RPG of the year. There were other picks. We had Ease come out this year. We also had Neo 20 that came out this year on multi-platform. We had Bravely Default 2 that came out this year. There were a number of better picks that were solid new games that worked across the board, that were multi-platform or on at least 2 platforms that anybody could have played, or at least some of these people that are picking could have understood the situation a bit better and not just said, oh, well, I didn't play Bravely Default, that's niche. Oh, I didn't play Neo 20, I didn't play some of these games, so therefore, it's not good enough. Like, this is ridiculous. I mean, come on. Like, Jeff Keighley, these people need to step in here and do something about this, because Cyberpunk definitely shouldn't be on this list considering what happened. You can't just take one version of the game and say, oh, well, that version is somewhat okay and not broken, so yeah, that one gets the nod, when it was delisted for the longest time and it had so many issues at launch. It was not a great game on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and for it to actually be here for RPG of the year over games that were solid, worked well, good, people loved the game, got good scores, that's just not right. And it's very unfortunate that this game, Cyberpunk, got nominated considering all things that happened. But hey, that is the good and that is the bad with the Game Awards 2021. What are your thoughts on this? What do you guys think? What do you feel was the biggest snubs? What do you feel was the best picks? Who do you feel will win Game of the Year? And of course, I'll have another video talking about the rest of the lineups, or you can check out my streams. I'll probably have a stream going over everything. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.